And a project we've been talking a lot about lately, Zcash, they have seen this as well. And I put out this tweet this week because I did a little digging. And I found out that based on a 90-day simple moving average, Zcash transactions are at an all-time low. So every 24 hours, they are averaging 2,293 transactions. However, half of those are Coinbase transactions, the block reward, which means that in one day, 1,152 of those 2,200 transactions, those are block rewards. And then when you look at the remaining transactions, which is about 1,100 transactions, a lot of those are transparent. A lot of them. Now, there isn't anything to measure the amount of shielded transactions, but if I had to guess, it's probably like 300 a day, maybe 400. I mean, those numbers are really low. And it's not surprising when you look at all these different websites that collected data on usage. Coin cards, for example. I don't think Zcash has ever been above 0.5% of their monthly volume on coin cards. And I know it's available on there. Or Shop'nBit, that's another one. What service that takes both Monero and Zcash shows Zcash being used more than Monero? There are none. So this is a huge problem for Zcash, like a huge problem. But because Zcash is in an echo chamber, no one ever talks about this. And in fact, by me bringing this up, I get a lot of people accusing me of trying to make fun of Zcash. They should be sounding the alarm about this. This is terrible. This is really, really bad. It's a ghost chain right now. Now, on a good news front for Zcash this week, it was announced that they had a collaboration with Brave, the browser. I actually just switched to Brave too. I switched to Brave. I opened up a new tab. I see Zcash's logo. I'm like, what? They have it now integrated with the Brave wallet. So basically, they are using their money. This is probably the smartest thing they've done, to give them credit. They went and they spent a lot of money to get their Zcash integrated in the Brave wallet. Now, is this going to have an impact on their usage? Probably not. And if anything, it's kind of just surprising why, Brave isn't interested in adding Monero. It's very similar to Proton, which we talked about earlier in this episode. They're concerned about bags. They're not concerned about actual usage. Because the Monero transaction chart, it's a lot better. It shows long-term growth. You can see long-term growth in actual usage. It's slow, but it's there. It's slowly trending upward. Whereas with Zcash, it's trending downward. And now it's all-time low. This includes back in 2017. That's how much it's dipped. It's completely plummeted their usage. It's just non-existent. But if you are really someone who likes Zcash, I know you guys are out there. Okay, I know some of you listen to my show. You need to be really pissed off at the foundation because it's inexcusable how they've had all this money for advertising and buying stuff and whatever, and the transaction usage has just plummeted. It was never that high to begin with, to be fair, but it hasn't grown at all. Really, any passionate person involved in a peer-to-peer cryptocurrency, if they are not passionate about usage over price, they are fraudulent. Okay? With Zcash, though, you have another variable here where they're clearly not passionate about usage. What they're passionate about is white papers. This is what they're passionate about. They're passionate about making the most private thing ever. I've talked a lot about how privacy is not an on or an off switch. Okay? And really what privacy debates turn into is a pissing contest. Oh, we're more private than you. No, we're more private than you. Burr, 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 burr. Doesn't fucking matter. What matters is what's actually being adopted. So I got into it with this one guy, this one Zcash developer. Actually, I think I got into it with more than one guy. I got into it with this one guy yesterday, talking to him about Monero. Because the thing is, I'm not going to go out and say Zcash shielded transactions are bad. They're not. I think they're great. And most people agree with me on that front. Even the most like, okay, well, a lot of people think it's a it's a glowing conspiracy. I wouldn't go that far. I am highly skeptical of its metadata. It's leaking the Zcash wallet, for example. It's set up so it like automatically sends crash reports to the Zcash team. Like you can't even turn that off. What the fuck? Terrible. I don't even know where to begin with that one. There's other stuff too. I'm not going to go into a whole deep dive of this. I don't really particularly care. But back to what I was talking about, though. I got into it with this guy. So let me pull up the tweet here. Okay, it's this guy named Biz Money. And he said that Zcash has hands down better tech than Monero, and that he's worked with both code bases extensively. I kind of doubt he's worked with Monero a lot. I haven't heard about this guy, but whatever. He then says, sorry, but your usage means nothing for real privacy tech. It's just the people you've marketed to about poor default settings who don't know any better. This is what he says. And so I respond to him and I ask him, what percentage of daily Zcash transactions are transparent? And that's the thing. These guys who basically just jerk off to their white papers, okay? They're not actually looking at how their product is being used. And the majority of their transactions and the majority of their usage is transparent. It doesn't matter how like wonderful your privacy technology is. When you have it as an option, it's not going to be used as much if it's built in. It's not fucking rocket science. Now it goes on, and he's basically arguing that, well, the shielded pools are better. And I keep saying, dude, it's not being used. But then at the tail end of the debate that we had, this is what he says. He goes, I personally wouldn't model my behaviors after what dumb criminals are doing. But you do you. That type of holier than thou mindset is freaking cancer. If Zcash was actually being adopted, it would be used on darknet markets. Why would it not? If it was a successful privacy tool, it would be adopted. Those dumb criminals, okay, they would be using your project. Punching down at them and calling them stupid or whatever. This is the Zcash reputation. It's, hey, we don't want certain types of people to use our privacy. What he's not getting is that the drug user is not far apart from the privacy advocate from the perspective of the government. He hasn't figured that out yet. And likewise, most of the Zcash people are like that. They're playing nice with the feds. Yeah, okay, let's see what happens in the long term with that. This mindset is exactly why Zcash has such poor adoption. You know, instead of being impartial and helping out the common man who doesn't care about the white paper, they act like they're above it. And we've seen time and time again how optional privacy is not adopted. The other thing too is these developers who are like so convinced that shielded transactions are like unbreakable, they're not looking at it from the perspective of somebody who doesn't understand how this technology works. Because the average person who's going to use Zcash is not going to investigate timing analysis or amount correlation. So they're going to just take their transparent Zcash, go right into a shield transaction, and then just spend that exact amount, like immediately after. It doesn't matter if the transaction's shielded. Through timing analysis, you can trace that. But the Zcash developers, they're going to pretend that that's not an issue. It is an issue. And you're going to have people doing that. And they're going to get caught. And what are they going to say? Well, you know, they're stupid. Or maybe they should have a look inside and say, you know what? Maybe we should have base layer privacy because people are going to do that because most people who use cryptocurrencies are stupid. This is why base layer privacy is superior. They're convinced that everyone who's using Zcash is like on this higher plane of thinking. No, it's not the case. If Zcash were to be adopted, the majority of people using Zcash would be stupid. And that's okay, because that's how everything works. Most people are not doing research into how these cryptocurrencies work. So you need to dumb everything down. And yeah, with Zcash, they're acting holier than thou. They're not dumbing it down. Now, here's the thing though. I'm not even saying that Monero has like bad privacy techniques to be dumbed down for criminals or like for people who don't understand technology. Not the case. If anything, this like the people who are totally in favor of Zcash shielded transactions miss the point completely that Monero has very strong built-in privacy. That's why it's being adopted. It works. And if you don't agree with me, show me the data. Right? Show me law enforcement, quote unquote, tracing somebody using Monero. Because time and time again, it is timing analysis with KYC exchanges. They're not using ring signatures to break Monero. That's actually not happening, which is honestly kind of surprising to me. But we know this from the information that we have. So if Zcash were to be adopted, you better believe that timing analysis would be used against criminals. But the Zcash developer, they're just avoidant of even thinking about that. It's below them is really what it is. And until they fix that mindset, Zcash is just not going to be adopted, which probably means it's just never going to be adopted because I don't see this mindset changing. It's just got a rotten culture. And it's important to talk about these things. I know some people think I'm like, just punching down on Zcash, like maybe how Proton Mail is punching down on Monero. Not the case. I'm making a point here. Because if Monero does bend the knee for compliancy, if it does kind of get lazy with their thinking, and if we're not extending an olive branch to people who, might not think the same way as we do, this is what happens. You have to build a reputation where you have no political leanings in either direction, right? And that just means some sick people are going to be using Monero, but we can't think of it that way. We have to think of the bigger picture of having peer-to-peer digital cash. That is the end game. And we have to make it so the common man who doesn't know anything about crypto, they can just plug and play because they are not going to read your stupid white papers.